In the last class, we were discussing about data types. Okay, so we were discussing about the data type. What is a data type? Quick revision. Data type represent the type of data present inside a variable or a container. So there are different data present in the real world. We have numeric data, we have string data, we have so many other kinds of data available. Now, broadly, we are categorizing the data types into int, float, complex, bool, string, bytes, byte array, range, list, tuple, set, frozen set, dict, and none. These are the data types which is present in Python. Briefly, we are going to take up some examples and we are going to understand. Okay. In the last class, we covered about the int data type. The int data type can be represented in decimal form, binary form, octal form, and hexadecimal form. And for that, we have seen examples plus the notes we have captured. In today's class, let us concentrate about the float data type. Now, there might be a question in your mind. Why do we need to go for separate integer type? Why do we have to go for float data type? Very simple. If you are going to a fuel station, example, you're going to a fuel station, you want to fuel your bike or car or whatever it is. Now, when you want to fuel your bike or car, do you see that the whatever the price of the fuel in whole number or it is in point or decimal values? Quickly, I want answers. To the fuel rate price, whatever we are seeing, is it a whole number or it is an decimal number? Nobody wants to say. It is a decimal value. It is a decimal value. It is a float value. It is not a complete whole number. So in the real time, there are situations that we need to store the data. We need to store the floating point data. In order to store the decimal value or floating point value, we have to go for float data type. Okay. So let me give you one simple definition and then we will go ahead and see with the real time. Okay. Okay, we can use float data. We can use float data type to represent floating point values, to represent floating point values. Now, what is this floating point values? Any decimal values, any decimal value, we call that as a floating point value. Okay, let me give you an example. Example here is, what is the price of fuel today? Fuel F is a variable, and what is the fuel price of a petrol price? Say, for example, can I say it is 100.1234? Yes, fuel price is 100.1234. Now, if you type this, want to know what is the type of F, the Python will store this data in the form of a float. That is why we are using this float data type. Without any delay, let's create one Python file here. Okay, let me create one file by name demo11.py. Okay, now I'm going to create a variable. Let me say P for petrol, and the petrol price, fuel price is somewhere around 101.234. Okay, now I want to know what is the type that petrol is getting stored. Okay, petrol is not a whole number. The value of the petrol is not a whole number. It is a decimal value. So this decimal value is represented as a float value, and decimal value and float value is more or less the same. Okay, now this float, let us see Python, how is it getting how this Python is storing this variable petrol. Okay, so I'm passing the type statement, I'm passing the type function, and then I'm passing the variable petrol. Now, if you are running it, it will say that this particular value 101.234 is stored of the data type as a float. It is stored of the data type as float. Okay, this is how, if you want to store any float values, then you need to use a float data type, where it is automatically, you are not in other programming languages, you need to say that this is a float data type, and then you need to give the variable name and then give the value. In Python, based on the value whatever you're giving, automatically the data type will be captured at runtime. Okay, so let me copy this and let's go to our script now. Okay, sorry, let's go to our nodes. So we can also represent floating point values. Remember, we can also represent floating point values by using exponential form. By using what form? Exponential form. I didn't get it. Can you explain it? Very simple. Now, say for example, I am having, I want to represent 1200. I need to create a variable. Let me say the variable name is F. Let me say the variable name is A. To this variable name A, I want to assign a value 1200. I want to assign a value 1200. Now this is fine. This is A is equal to, it's having a value 1200. But sometimes we were in our number system, even though it is a whole number, we will give it as dot zero. This dot zero is not having any value. Point zero is not having any value. If in case this point instead of zero, if it is one, this will add weightage to it. But let us say that we wanted to store a value 1200 floating or 0.0 to a variable A. To a variable A we are trying to do. Zaire and iPhone, can you go on mute, please? Okay, now what I'm trying to do, now instead of storing this particular value 1200.0 directly in Python, I have an other alternative way of doing it. What is the other alternative way of doing it? I can store it like this also. How is this? See here, how many zeros are there totally here? How many zeros are there? Huh?
Three.
Three zeros are there. So what I will do, I will use 1.2. I'm using, see, I'm moving this dot zero. I'm moving this zero dot. Sorry, this I'm moving this dot from one position to, I'm going from first position, second position, and third position. So if I want to move this by how many positions, those many zeros you need to add. See here, I am at this first position. I'm moving this dot from here to here. I'm moving. Let me explain it. If you're not able to understand it, let me take up an MS Paint and explain it here so that it will be easy for everybody to understand. Okay. Let me type it as A is equal to 1200.0. Okay. So let me increase the font size. Let me give it as 20. Okay, let me give it as 20, and then let me keep this as in red text so that everybody is able to follow it. Now, what I want to do here is, instead of using A is equal to 1200, I want to write it in another way. So I am going to write it like this. I am going to write it 1.1.2 1.2 e to the power 3. I'm going to write. Now how this is going to work? Very simple. I'm going to explain. Now where is this dot here? The dot is in this location. Let me take a pencil and let me take a blue ink and then do it. So from here, this dot is moving from here to this place. This is first position. And then it is moving to the second position. And then it is moving to the third position. So I'm keeping 1.2 e to the power 3. That means exponent to the power 3 or 10 to the power 3. Now, in other words, if you are multiplying, if you are adding, if you are multiplying 1.2 into 10 to the power of 3, 10 to the power of 3, you will get the same value, that is 1200.0. So instead of writing like this, you can also represent like this using floating point data type, using floating data type. By writing like this, what is the advantage? By writing like this, we can store big numbers also inside the float data type using lesser memory. So if you want to use you are trying to use bigger numbers, then try to use an exponential form and store it in float data type so that it will take lesser memory. Is everybody able to understand this example quickly? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me paste it here. Now what I will try to do, let me give you some points here. We can also represent, okay, we have already given. We can also represent this point. We can also represent floating point values by using exponential form. And this is the example. This is the example. Now the main advantage, the main advantage of exponential form is we can represent big values in big values in less memory, big values in less memory. So this is an interview question also, so be prepared on this one. Okay, can I go to the next level? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next data type what we are going to learn is called as complex data type. Complex data type. Okay, for people who are from a non-technical background, who are from a non-science background, they will not know what is this complex numbers or a complex data type. Okay, in order to represent a complex number, we use complex data type. Okay, in order to represent complex numbers, we use, can Martin go on mute please? In order to represent complex numbers, we use complex data types. Okay, now this complex data type is something very unique that it is interesting also that you should be knowing. Okay, now I told that in order to represent complex numbers, we use complex data types. Now what is a complex number? Don't worry, I'm not going to teach you what is complex number, what is complex data types in detail. Just a rough understanding, surface level understanding is more than enough. Okay, complex numbers will look like this. Complex numbers example will look like this. If you are from an electrical engineering, you will know, like you will be mostly dealing with complex numbers and to design your circuits. If you are not from electrical engineering, no problem, but you should be knowing how a complex number is looking like. Complex number is made up of two parts. Okay, let me give you, complex number is made up of two parts. Okay, just a minute. Okay, now and then it is automatically going for a plus, and then this is first part, we call it as this part. Okay, let me take up an example here and explain it so that it will be easy for you to understand. Don't say, okay, come here, let me open up a text box here. Now, a complex number is made up of two parts. First, we call it as A, and let me assume that this is one part, and the second part is an B we are giving. Now, whatever you are seeing on that, there is an addition symbol here, correct? There is an addition symbol here. Now, before the addition symbol, whatever the number you are seeing, before the addition symbol, whatever the number you are seeing, we call that as a real part. Okay, whatever number, whatever the whatever you are seeing before the plus symbol, we call that as a real part. What is that called as? Real part. And whatever you are seeing after the plus symbol, or whatever you are seeing after the operator symbol, we call that as an imaginary part. Just a brief understanding about what is a real part and what is imaginary part is it is enough. Don't need to worry about in detail how it is working. Imaginary part. Okay, a combination of real part plus an imaginary part put together, we call that as a complex number. We call that as what? A complex number. So this real part plus an imaginary part, we call that as a complex number. Clear? So if you want to represent this in Python, how do we represent it? Python, if you are giving this one a plus bj, so instead of a plus bj, if you are trying to give any other value also, Python will try to understand. So instead of a plus bj, I can give 3 plus 3 plus 5j. Now you should tell me what is the real part in this complex number. What is the real part?
3.
3 is the real part, and imaginary part is which one?
5j.
5j. So 3 becomes the real part and 5j becomes the imaginary part. This much understanding is enough. We don't need to have more in detail. This understanding, if you're having, that is more than enough for our Python complex data type. We are not going to solve problems here. We are going to at least know how a complex data type is looking like. Okay. Okay, so let me give you.
So j is constant, sir.
Yes, j is constant.
Okay.
Okay, so let me open up a new file here. Let me give you demo 11. Okay, demo 11 is already presented. Sorry, let me give it as demo 12. Okay, demo 12. Now let us create one complex number. A is a variable. A is a variable which is having two complex numbers. Which, sorry, it is having one imaginary part and a real part. First comes real part. So I'm giving the real part as 10, and then I'm going to give the imaginary part after the operator, plus operator, whatever you are going to enter becomes the imaginary part. Imaginary part, I'm not going to give that as a whole number. I'm going to give that as a float value 5.5. Then j I am writing. Now Python will understand, okay, now the user has entered some complex number. User has entered a complex number. It will understand. I am going to create another complex number. Now for this complex number, we need to give the real value. Real value here is again 0.5 I'm giving. I'm not giving a whole number. I'm giving a float value 0.5. Then I am going to give another imaginary part as a 0.1j. 0.1j I am giving. Now I am asking Python to do an addition operation between a plus b. Now what will be the answer? 10 plus 0.5 is how much? 10.5.
10.5.
5.5 minus 0.1 is 5.6. That is the answer you should be getting. Could you see here? 10 plus 0.5 is 10.5. 5.5 plus 0.1 is 5.6. So these sorts of operations also complex number is capable of doing. Clear? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'm going to give you another option also. Sometimes, we are lazy and we don't know what is the real part and imaginary part. So can we ask this particular Python itself to tell us what is the real part and what is the imaginary part? That also it is there, don't worry. So I'm taking the complex number. Complex number here is assigned to a variable by name A. So I'm using A and then I'm using dot. When I'm using dot, it is getting inside that complex number and I am getting one inbuilt method. I'm getting one inbuilt method. So I want to know what is the real value of A. Now A dot real meaning what is this real value here? What is the real value of A?
10.
10. So it will print the value 10. See here, it is already giving you that value. Could you see here? It is giving 10.0. Okay. Even though it is a whole number, internally Python is remembering that as a 10.0. Since 0.0 does not have any any references to it. Only when you have some instead of 0, if you're having 1, then it becomes a float value. Otherwise, it is treated as a decimal value only, or sorry, integer value only. Okay. Print, again I'm using a dot imag, which is nothing but imaginary. So imaginary number for a is how much? It is 5.5. I am getting clear. This is another way to represent my complex data type in Python. Clear? I'm going
Yes, sir.
on the surface level so that everybody should understand. People from a non-technical background, can you please open your mouth and say, are you able to understand? There is no loss for me. If you are not understanding, it is a loss for you. You need to be in a position to say yes or no. Is it so costly to say yes or no?
No, I think we are getting it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now the next concept, the next data type, whatever we are going to learn is called as a Bool data type, or we call that as another word as Boolean data type. What is this Bool or Boolean data type? Let's understand. We can use this data type to represent Boolean values. First point, we can use this data type to represent Boolean values. In some time, I'm going to explain what is a Boolean value. Okay. The only allowed values for this Boolean data types are true and false. So what are the Boolean values that we are having now? We are only having two Boolean values, that is either true and
false.
False. Very good. So let me put it like this. The only allowed values, for Boolean data type, data type is true and false. Okay. Now I'm going to give you one most important secret, and I'm going to give you one most important point. Okay, you need to remember this one, because definitely you're going to interview. Definitely when you're working on real-time project, this secret will really help you. What is this one? Internally, the secret goes like this. Internally, Python represents a Boolean value, that is a true. Boolean value, what I'm talking about? Boolean value true as one, and the next thing is that internally Python represents a Boolean value that is false, as a 0. Can I show to you programmatically? Can I prove it to you? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
First, let me tell you how this Boolean data type is working. Then I will show you this programmatically whether this is correct or wrong. Okay. First, let me go up to the PyCharm, create one new file by name demo13. Demo13, we will give demo13. Demo13 I'm giving. Now, let me create a variable a is equal to 10. Okay. A is holding the value 10. B is holding the value 20. Now, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to do a comparison. Is A lesser than B? Is A value lesser than B? You tell me. Is it lesser than or greater than? 10 is lesser than B. 10 is lesser than 20.
True.
No.
10 is lesser than 20. No.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
10 is lesser than 20. Now I am doing a condition check. I'm doing a comparison check. Is 10 lesser than B or not? Now Python should return an answer whether it is a yes, true, or it should say no, it is false. Now when I type a print C, it will say yes, 10 is lesser than 20. See? It is returning true. That means 10 is lesser than 20. It is giving me a Boolean answer to me, Boolean value to me. You're able to understand? Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let me comment this file. Let me comment this one. Now when you're running, you will not see any output. Now I'm going to give you another example. Internally, true is represented as 1, I told. Correct? Internally, Python represents true as 1. So what I'm giving, true plus true is nothing but what? 1 plus 1 is how much?
2.
2. So let us see. Print true plus true. Now you see the answer what you are getting. You are getting what?
2.
2. So true is represented as the value 1. Internally, Python represents the true as 1. Now what I will do, I want to know what is the value of false. So I will try to say true minus false. True minus false is how much? 1 minus 0 is how much?
1.
1. Now you run it. Could you say true plus true is that is nothing but 1 plus 1 is 2 and 1 minus 0 is 1. So false is represented as 0 and true is represented as 1. You are able to get it? This is very,
Yes.
very important.
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
In other
sir.
programming languages also they follow it, but many people will not say that true is represented as 1 and false is represented as 0. But you as a programmer, you should be in a position to understand this one. Clear?
Yes.
Okay, super fantastic. Now we are going to another data type called as str or string data type. Str or string data type. What is this str or string data type? First, we need to understand the definition very clearly. str represents a string data type. Represents a string data type. Okay. So if you want to represent string data type, we need to use str.
STR.
Okay. Now, first of all, we don't know what is string. Now, how will I know? How will I proceed further? If I want to know what is string, I'm giving you an example. A string is a sequence. A string is a sequence of characters. I hear my voice again reverting back. Okay. A string is a sequence of characters enclosed with single quotes or double quotes. Sequence of characters enclosed within single quotes, single quotes or double quotes, single quotes or double quotes. Okay, now can I give you an example? Let us say I'm creating a variable S1. This is a variable S1. To this variable, I'm trying to assign a string value. So usually string should be represented either in, Moin, can you go on mute? Usually string should be represented either in single quotes or in double quotes. So I am going with single quotes now. So I'm writing Karthik. So read the statement. A string is a sequence of characters. Say Karthik is a sequence of characters enclosed within single quotes. It is enclosed within a single quotes or double quotes. This becomes a string. So the string is sitting inside a variable by name S1. Okay, so I can also create another variable S2, and instead of single quotes, I'm going with double quotes. Then I'm giving Babu and assigning a value to it. Now this becomes a string type. Let's create a variable and see in our PyCharm. Okay, so this should be demo 14 new Python file. Let me create a demo 14 and create a file here. So S1 equals to, in single quotes, writing Karthik. I am writing S2. I am creating another variable in double quotes. I am writing Babu. Now I'm trying to write a print of S1. So whatever is the value present inside the bucket S1, it will print that value Karthik. Now, when I'm trying to print S2, it will print the value which is present inside S2 as Babu. Now, if you try to assign the value without a single quotes, you will get an error. What is the error? You are getting the red symbol here. Yes or no? You are getting a red symbol, red mark. It is a syntax error, grammatical error. Always string should be represented in single quotes or double quotes. Without single quotes or double quotes, you shouldn't write the string. Now I want to know whether it is correctly storing the string format or not. So I'm giving the print type of S1. The type of S1 is str, which is nothing but a string data type, which is nothing but a string data type. Now let me go to another level. Let me take up another example. Now another example here is I want to store a variable by name Microsoft. What is the variable I want to store? What is the string that I want to store?
Microsoft.
Microsoft. So let me create one variable by name S3. Okay. To that one, if I want to store a string value, I need to store it in either single quotes or double quotes. Let me give here single quotes. Now the problem here is I don't want to store a Microsoft like this. I don't want to store Microsoft value in one single line. I want to store a micro in the first line and a soft in the second line Clear? Okay, I want to store it like this. Is this correct or wrong?
Wrong.
Wrong. Because if you are storing a string, you need to store it is a, remember the definition. What is the definition I gave you? The definition is a string is a sequence of characters enclosed within single quotes or double quotes. But here it is not a sequence of characters. Sequence of character meaning everything should be on the same line. First part of the string is in the first line. Second part of the string is there in the second line. So it is not something that I can consider this as a string type. There it is giving me an error. But if there is a requirement that you wanted the Microsoft to be stored in this fashion, we have another way. What is another way? We can go for a triple quotes. Instead of single quotes or double quotes, you can go with you can go like this, you can go like this, you can go like this, and give 1, 2, 3. You are going with the single triple quotes. Now, if you are typing print S3, it will beautifully print the value Microsoft. Is it giving like that? In the what fashion you are storing? In the same fashion you are getting it. Clear, clear, clear. Yes. So if you want to store a string and that string is not part in one line, then we should go for single triple quotes, or instead of this one we can go for double triple quotes also. Okay, double triple quotes also. Okay, but you need to go for triple quotes. Clear, clear, clear.
So
Yes,
what
sir.
is the differentiate? So one question. What is the differentiate between triple quote and single quote? I would have written this in single quote as well. One shot, like why I got the error when I put into single quote, because as per like the connected string is a sequence of single quote, right? We can write it the statement in the single quote as well.
Okay, good you asked me this question. Okay, now we have a string. We have a string here, S4, and my requirement is this one. Okay, my requirement here is a requirement to store a string into a variable here is I am Karthik. I am Karthik and I love teaching Python. Okay, this is my data. I want to store it in a string. Okay, now in order to represent a string, I'm using single quotes, and then I am writing, I'm copy pasting whatever is the data here.
Yes, yes.
Now when I'm copy pasting it, it is giving me an error. It is taking only I as a string, and the remaining part, whatever I'm giving it, it is not considering as a string. Why? Because as part of the string, if I'm passing as part of my string, if I'm passing single quotes as a string, then it is giving me an error. In that case, I should remove single quotes, pass it with the double quotes. Then it will work. Clear, clear, clear.
Yes.
Sometimes even I want to go with instead of single quotes, I want to have double quotes as my character. double quote as my string, as part of my string, then also it will fail. That time only we will go for
Three.
double triple quotes,
Yes.
double triple quotes. That time Python will understand, oh, the user is giving this double quotes as part of the string. He is not writing that outside the string. He is writing that double quotes as part of the string. That is why we have to go with the single triple quotes, single triple quotes or double triple quotes. Clear, clear, clear.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so this one is important. So let's go to our question part and take some notes here. By using single quotes, by using, how many of you like the notes? Do you like the notes, or is it a double effort that we are trying to do?
No, sir, it is better.
Or else you can detect, so we can write it off. That is also fine, Karthik.
Yeah, I would like to do that, but again, not many people attending class itself, they are not interested. If I dictate or not, they will not listen only. Let me write it down.
That is only itself, it's better actually.
No, I think this is the better way, because you are writing, so the language will be understandable, later on,
Yeah,
if we refer to that.
yeah, okay. So by using
Today class
single,
started at 7 o'clock.
yeah, today's it started at 7 o'clock. By using single quotes or double quotes, we cannot represent multi-line string literals. We cannot represent multi-line string literals, as I gave you in that example. Okay, we can use triple quotes to use. Okay, we can use triple quotes. We can use a triple quotes to use single quote, or double quote as part of our string, string. We can use triple quotes to use single quotes or double quotes as part of our string, so that it will be helpful for us. Okay, I'll give you one more example so that you will be able to understand it. Okay, can I give you one more example? Yes, fine.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to create a string here. The requirement here is I want to represent everything in single quotes or double quotes. If you first thing you need to keep in mind, if your string is not having any quotes, directly represent it either in single quotes or double quotes. Okay, if your string is having double quotes, then go for triple single quotes, or if your string is having double quotes, go for a single the triple quotes. Okay, now let me write it like this. Okay, this is a Python class. Okay, see here, double quotes I'm using as part of my string. This is Python class. This is Python class. Very useful for Java students. Very useful for Java students. Could you see here inside this double quotes is part of my string. Okay, since there is double quotes, I have to go with the triple quotes. No other go. You can represent this triple quotes either in single triple quotes or double triple quotes. It's up to you. But if you have quotes as part of your string, go with triple quotes. That's the concept. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So you have to, I will give you all these codes, practice this codes, understand it, write your own notes. Only then you will be able to understand it completely. If you are not practicing the code only by listening to my video and only by listening to my watching the notes, you will not be able to do it successfully. So my humble request, practice the code. I will push all the codes in a Git repository and then share that path with you. You download the code and you start working on that one. Okay. In tomorrow's class, I'm going to deep dive into a little bit of strings. I don't want to begin it now because it is already we have taken too many things. In tomorrow's class, I'm going to explain about the strings concept more in detail so that will be helpful. Clear?